Today, I'm going to be addressing a common stumbling block in the Christian faith for both non believers and new believers, which is the idea that we should love God more than we love anyone or anything else on this earth. So, a particularly controversial verse that encapsulates this idea is found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 37, which states, "Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me." And as someone who did not grow up in the church, that verse was very jarring to me when I first encountered it, as I imagine it is for a lot of other people. Because the natural question that you'd be inclined to ask, or at least that I was, is, why should I love God, this being who I've never even seen, more than my father and mother who love me very much, whose love for me I can see on a day-to-day basis? This idea has become particularly difficult to comprehend in the American culture of religious belief, where we tend to view faith as not something that's objectively true. We tend to think of something that, it's just it's subjective, it's kind of up to the individual person. So on the surface, it seems somewhat silly to say that loyalty to God is more important than loyalty to my parents or siblings or other family members. And part of the reason that it seems silly to us is because I don't think a lot of us really think of God as real, being something that is there and is a real presence, whether or not we believe in him or follow his precepts or not. We think of God like we think of sort of mythical gods, like the Greek gods, like Zeus or Apollo or what have you. And the reason that I use the Greek gods in particular for that comparison is because they embody sort of the way a lot of us think about God. We don't think of God necessarily as a being that is inherently more righteous, more moral, more intelligent than us. What we think of is a being that is in many ways human, but is just much more powerful than us. So coming at it from that sort of mindset, having supreme loyalty to God can feel the same as being loyal to a human tyrant or dictator, simply because they have the power to punish you if you refuse to demonstrate loyalty to them or follow their rules. So some of the thoughts someone with this perspective might have are, I've seen my parents, I know how much they love me, and, supposedly God put me here and created everything, but why does that obligate me to love him above all the other people I love? Just because he said so? That doesn't seem like a good reason. I mean, that's what people say when they don't have an actually good reason for you to do what they're telling you to do. Those were some of the thoughts that I had when I was first encountering and wrestling with this idea. But something that I think we can all pretty much grasp, whether we're believers or non-believers or what have you, is the idea that our highest obligation in any given situation is to do what is right. Whatever we believe that to be, that we should, in whatever situation we're in, that we should do what we think is right. That being said, it's not too hard to imagine situations where wanting to do what you think is right conflicts with showing love to your friends or family or neighbors, especially if you buy into our culture's sort of warped perception of love, which doesn't leave any room for sort of discipline or tough love or, good-hearted correction, but is solely sort of permissive sort of love where you're just okay with everything the person does or says, and you never express any sort of displeasure with anything that they do. And for an example of that, let's say that your brother killed someone. Now, I think most of us could agree that the right thing to do in that circumstance if we were able to, would be to turn him into the police so that he could face justice. However, that wouldn't necessarily be viewed as the loving thing to do for your brother, because obviously that's going to cause your brother to suffer, either to be in jail or get the death penalty or something along those lines. So in that circumstance, if our highest priority was loving our brother, then what we would have to do is help him get away with the crime, basically, and not get arrested, so that he wouldn't suffer being in jail or any of the extremely unpleasant things that happen to you, when you are forced to face the legal consequences for murder. So while we might understand someone's feeling like they want to protect their brother in that circumstance, most of us would pretty much agree that the thing that we should do in that situation is make sure that our brother is brought to justice. So when we think about a situation like that, it becomes pretty obvious that there is something that we should value or love more than our family members. And what that is doing the right thing, also known as righteousness. Now, fortunately, quite often, if not most of the time, loving our family and friends and loving righteousness go hand in hand. They're not really in conflict. But when they are in conflict, I think we can all sort of admit that righteousness and doing the right thing should come first. Now, where does God fit into all this? Well, the answer is found in many books of the Bible, but is summed up particularly well, I think, in Psalms 116:5, which says, "The Lord is gracious and righteous." And this is one of many verses in the Bible that communicates the idea that God is equivalent with righteousness, that God embodies righteousness, that righteousness is an intrinsic part of who God is. You can't separate God and righteousness any more than you could make water unwet and still have it rightly be called water. So what follows from that is that to love God is to be righteous, and vice versa. To be righteous is to love God. And once we realize that and internalize it, the idea that God is equivalent with righteousness and is not just some extremely powerful human-like being that is capable of moral failings like the gods of Greek mythology are, then the idea that we have an obligation to love God more than our family or friends or anyone else on this earth begins to make a lot more sense. Alrighty, everybody, school is out for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like it, share it with some of your friends, comment down in the comment section below. If you'd like to hear more of my musings on apologetics and theology or politics, I have a lot of political content on my channel, then please subscribe and hit that little bell to get notifications on when I put up new videos. It's been kind of infrequent lately, to say the least, but I do plan to keep putting up new videos kind of when the inspiration hits me. So once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. God bless.